Hi everyone, it's my pleasure to host the Industry Dialogue, and our topic for the day is: Does your workplace requires happiness certification from an external agency? Brands are amongst of firm's most valuable assets, so brand management is an essential activity for an organization. Not only are the products and services offered by the company being evaluated by customers, but prospective clients and stakeholders are also increasingly considering the firm's image as an employer of choice. Employers across the industries and regions emphasize building an inclusive, diverse, equitable, and sustainable employer brand to understand how they are perceived online and how that perception affects in terms of hiring and retention. Hence, they go for many certifications and awards that would help them to brand themselves. Employers branding certification is a strategic process, but does an organization really require an external agency to certify to call it a favorable place to work? Do our families need a certificate from external agencies to state that their happiness or satisfaction? If not, then why do companies? It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Mr. Rohit Sinha. He is currently heading HR function for L&T Energy's onshore business vertical at Vadodara. He comes with more than 3 decades of rich work experience of employee relations, industrial relations, and HR. Earlier, he's worked with companies like Hindustan Paper Corporation, Ultratech Cement, and Wockhardt Hospitals. So, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sumit.
So, with this, we'd like to start with our first question. I'd like to understand from your expertise what could be the various reasons for organization to go for these certifications.
Sumit, of course, first of all, heartfelt thanks to TeamLease to engage with me today for a very, very relevant topic. We go for certification or we conduct service because of the primary reason that engagement of employees at workplace is critical. In fact, if you don't have an engaged workforce, you can't achieve the desired productivity and the company cannot grow without an engaged workforce. Though we have our own internal mechanism to keep gauging our engagement levels. In the last two, we are the eight decades old organization, we have got all mechanisms. Still we need at times a third eye view, an outside expert view in order to ascertain that where we stand on the engagement scale.
But does it really make sense because anyways as an employee you're aware what are the pain points of employees and all, and anyways like you mentioned you're doing various checks and all, you have some parameters to judge all those things. Do you really require to go for an external agency for that?
For two reasons. First of all, primarily two reasons. First of all, in these are changing times. As you know, we are a mix of baby boomers, millennials, Gen Zs, and every now and then this the total composition of the employee profile is changing. Number one. Number two, the people are joining our new joiners as well as lateral joiners we have from different organizations. They've got different aspirations and motivations. So, keeping update on that, the external agencies, since they operate in all companies and they work with most companies in India and abroad, they have got a better understanding of what are the motives in people's mind. How do they see, how do they perceive engagement? What is engagement mean to them?
Right.
So
you get a lot of inputs from them also.
So their interviews, their questions are curated. In fact, they are drafted by the experts. And the way you word it elicit the apt response and they process it. So that's the first part. Number two, though we are a fair organization, Larsen Tublo is a preferred organization as is, still people might have some apprehensions. So it is better that an individual independent agency does this service. So we believe that people will confide or open up better with a company that assures of a confidentiality of the matter. Point number three is these companies, most of them, as we come up with, they do deep dive in this, and they segment you and they give you very actionable, pinpointed actionable points, and that we validate with our internal information, and then that helps us draw our action plan and engagement. Many times they also offer certain coaches and experts to help us with our action plans. So all these advantages we get when we engage with external companies. We have got very reputed internal agencies in India and also abroad. So we have been doing it despite we have our internal response finding engines, but then we keep validating. Because unless we have truly validated data with us, going to the next level of engagement is also not acceptable by employees, even by management.
Reducing the number of things which you cannot do at your level, where the external agencies are helping.
Positioning your approaches, deployment plans, because to get the buy-in also, it helps.
But nowadays you'll see many people just going, many companies are getting certified left, right. I understand your company comes on a very different approach and all, but still left, right, people are getting certified and all, but still the attrition percentage is on the very high side.
I think we cannot see, but both are mutually exclusive according to me. See, like the excellence model, at times you touch upon 7 out of 10. Again, 3 things are not touched, or it is perceived that those same things were not up to the mark. So people have got different motivation of leaving an organization and joining other organization. Many things are very personal to that individual. So even no matter what you do, like in Great Resignation, people only quit job because they wanted their own time. So no amount of effort you can put into it.
That is because of the experience they had during this pandemic situation.
So this human mind is in a very interesting, it has come to a very interesting stage these days. The people have started looking at things in altogether different perspective.
Yes.
It is all the more necessary that we keep updated, we keep exchanging notes with them, and at times agencies also share, without disclosing the names of the company, their data points. It's a data initiative and their experiences of finding out the employee engagement levels and their findings and their action plans. So we need to be updated. When we are competing with the best in the market, it's all the more required that we be updated.
But don't you think it's becoming more of a branding activity or a social gimmick rather than just, I understand because some companies, they are very serious about the entire approach, the way the things are getting certified, but considering, earlier if you see, few years back, there were very limited companies coming into this category. Now suddenly you find many companies are getting certified. So many certificates, that means people are quite happy in these companies, but still the outcome is little different.
Sumit, I kind of agree because there's a mushroom growth of certification happening. But I think that they can be differentiated. Which are the authentic ones?
Right.
Of course, we also get advantage of that. Like the reputed publication in the country and abroad, the reputed organization that they do survey, and appearing as the best employer to work with, it helps.
So that really helps in terms of attracting the talent, retaining
it does. It surely does. It is published like so many awards. They come in the front page in the popular dailies and in the country and abroad. It helps.
You also mentioned a lot of inputs when it comes to the pain points. Like as an employee, you are aware of certain pain points and all, but a lot of inputs comes from the market because they are working with multiple companies. So you think their the value addition, maybe if you like to throw more light about it, some points you mentioned, but more understanding how it helps. Like you mentioned some coaching part also. So one, obviously as an employer, you are aware of the pain points of an employer, but obviously having a neutral or a third eye view. So that really helps in working out an action plan. So some points like you mentioned coaching and other things where so that you work it out. Any more and furthermore it is like to share on those points in terms of the inputs you've got in your experience in past from the third party who is certifying.
Sumit, in fact, this is a very interesting question and a very relevant once again. See, Larsen Tubro, we are the brick and mortar company for we are nation builders, and when we say talking about infrastructure and like oil and gas and power, the paradigm has been this is a men specific company.
What I'm referring right now, overall perspective, not only limited to L&T, because the market is huge. The companies, like I mentioned, number of companies are getting certification for this. So obviously there's some name L&T, we know how it is. So what about other as an overall, as an HR, like the experience what you carry from your perspective, how you think the overall scenario is?
So the engagement limit can possibly be different by how the company position its credibility points. I'm giving an example of my company. Like diversity, equity, inclusion. We are getting a lot of input from the hospitality sector, or the startups, or the technology companies. So we are getting a lot of input from there, and we are improving on these fronts. We are taking input from those initiatives taken in those industries, in hospitality and technology. Where we are also a technology company, but taking input from there and improving on that count. Similarly, what we do, it impacts, and that is being given cited as examples in other companies, and they benefit. So it is cross industry also.
But you'll find majorly these are big companies who are getting the certification. What about we have SME is a big market, right? So why they are not opting for it in that case? Obviously, I know the number of employees will be on the lower side. Maybe the interaction level is better when it comes to the large giants which are there. So you think that these certifications also going to help these people also, while obviously getting a lot of inputs, or is it a costly affair for MSMEs?
They also, like when I was in a different part of, I have worked in different parts of the country, and I have come across people coming and participating in seminars and conferences. I'm sure they also participate at their level.
Or maybe the branding is not happening at that level, so people are not aware. In terms they can go for as an employer of choice.
They may be getting left out in the reckoning, but I think I'm sure that they would have their mechanism of getting input from outside.
So, how do companies without such certification can build, that strong employer brand, like we say, employer of choice and all, without getting into the certification anyway, or this is the way and the way forward also, where people go for external agencies certifying them and all, not the traditional approach where people wanted and people were spending number of years in the companies without having some certification. So is there any other way rather than going for a certification as a traditional approach, they can just continue building their brand, a strong brand in the market, so that they are the employer of choice?
Growing up in myself, and I think everybody know that we know certain brands. There are certain brands that have been popular, but only by virtue of their reach to the masses. Like they're made detergent and very edible.
Maybe the foundation they built over the period of time. And
I think the way they have positioned their product and services into deep in the population of the country and whichever countries they operate in. So they reach out to people by way of advertising and also involvement. Like many societies are like milk development societies and like white revolution or green revolution. All these things, the societies and the microfinance companies, they have reached out to the masses, involving the people. This is one way, and also branding and advertising for their products. Those are many of the products that we do. We are aware that have reached to even metro cities and internationally they are branded, but they started with positioning themselves, involving the people out there. Rather than going for certification and advertising that, engaging with the consumers, engaging with the stakeholders in a different way.
What do you think this will be the way forward? The people, to attract talent, they need to go for a certification, or you think that traditional approach will still hold good?
The intention should be genuine, and that is because today there's a war of talent that we are aware. Every sector. we need people. We need people of right talent and aptitude, and they know us. This public is actually aware. The market, job market, is fully aware who is who.
Right.
While it helps, but genuinely the organization needs to emphasize and work towards the credibility, the fairness, and the way we treat people with credibility, respect, fairness.
So the basic players will remain same. The only thing for branding you require that. Because whatever you mentioned last few points, I think that's a core HR thing, involvement, engagement, fairness, trust, and building that credibility internally. I think that will remain, that will continue.
The core value need to remain, and one needs to recognize that without you are retaining your core values and working continuously on them. So no certification will help in the long run.
Yeah. But I really like that point which you mentioned, the inputs coming from an external agency, where like from other industries what is happening. It's not about just a survey and a certification, it is the inputs what you're getting so that you can take those corrective action. And the entire plan can be worked out. I think that really I like it because that is something which will give you a lot of inputs what is happening in other industries, how they can, put it in a better way in that particular organization, which maybe directly they're not building also.
Because see, in our work parlance, we use the word cold as review. Like we get our things, drawings and approaches and execution plans reviewed by an expert, something like that. So we have been in this business for decades, but still we need a consultant to look at our plans because it can save us on certain productivity margins or
So neutral opinion and expert knowledge comes into picture as a consultant.
And it is a designed way we do, a very proactive way we do. We don't just jump at it. So we know certain certification or certain survey participation we need to do on a periodic basis. It's a part of our strategic plan actually.
So you think as per you every company should go for the certification? Or this is again limited and very limited to some companies, maybe again I say marketing perspective?
It depends at what stage of growth phase or development phase you are. Like if you have reached a certain level of kind of execution level or excellence level and you aspire to the next level, you want input, maybe that is the right time.
So other ways taking inputs without getting certified. Like you mentioned consultants and all, anyways people are using in that. So again the thing comes, is it a branding or actually an input from an external agency to work it out a better process or retain the staff or attract the talent?
See, according to me, we need to have two-pronged approach. We need to have our own, we need to have the mechanism to capture the water cooler talks and need to have closed group discussions, one-on-one discussion, and also internal survey in some way or the other to capture to have the feel of the pulse of the people. That the HR and the associate functions, they need to keep a tab. That is mandatory. And periodically, according to me, maybe once in 2 years, once in 3 years, you need to go and have it revalidated whether the findings have actually are they speaking to each other, so that we zero down on certain actionable points.
I think one key point which I like to mention also, blowing the pulse of the employee. I think this is the key, what I believe. If you know, I'm sure you're able to retain talent, you can attract talent also, because you can build up the things on that particular pulse when you're able to read on time proactively. I think that's a very critical. So thank you so much. So with this, we have come to an end of this session. I'd like to conclude this with a quote. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. Thank you so much, Mr. Rohit, for joining us and for sharing your views on this topic. And I'd like to leave our audience to think and recall when they last attempted to get certification from external agency for their family, whether they are happy or not. If not, then why do we require it for our organizations? Though you'll have different opinions, but again the question comes, is it just a branding activity or really adds a lot of value for an organization, because when we say organization is like a family, then why we are not opting for the certification for family to see whether they are happy or satisfied. Thank you so much and take care and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, Sumit.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.